and to create a working group on open access to data as part of his World Bank Alliance project. We were a room full of optimists, but we have examples to try to justify our optimism. By the way, let me say we all acknowledged, and one of our contributors, one of our attendees emphasized to us that the data is not an end in itself. This data is there to inform and ultimately feed into socioeconomic decisions. But without the data, we're really flying blind. So here are 3 examples that we think show that collection of global data and dissemination to end users is not only doable, but has been done in favorable cases. One is the measurement of the temperature and salinity of the ocean, something that seemed impossible a couple of decades ago. There would never be enough research ships to go out and lower thermometers in the ocean, but inventive scientists have devised a system of 3,500 robots called the Argo system, paid for by 26 nations, each according to their capacity. And that data is freely available to everybody in the world. And so if you want to know the heat content of the ocean, you have to figure out how to do that experiment. And to the world's great credit, it's done and been operational for 5 years. A second example is more recent. Last October, Wendy Watson-Wright and IOC turned over the keys of the tsunami warning system in the Indian Ocean, a 6-year effort to deploy a system that would let the countries of the Indian Ocean, on the border of the Indian Ocean, have the data available to, if they so choose, declare a warning or evacuation system. And the third example, we were reminded by one of our speakers, Jesse Ossabel, that it was just in 1979 that the world's first network of geostationary satellites were deployed to take pictures of the clouds above the Earth. We all now think that's routine. Every day or every hour we can expect to see what the weather is just west of us, so we know what the weather's going to be this afternoon or tonight or tomorrow. But we've only had that data for 33 years. And those 6 satellites were deployed by 5 countries, but the data has been made available to everybody. And really the skill of our weather forecasts is such that even in the southern hemisphere, which is 80% ocean, the skill of 5-day forecasts on the west coast of all the continents is almost as good as Central Europe, where all you really need is to call up someone a few hours west of you and ask, what's the weather? So those are the positives. The negatives, of course, are that it took 6 years for the tsunami warning system to be deployed, and many of us in the science community remember that the community of scientists had designed such a system and was complete in late 2002, but we didn't have the skill or the wit to get it through the political system of getting it funded with, what can only be described as tragic consequences. The good news about data is that it's getting cheaper and cheaper to collect. We're developing better and fancier, cheaper sensors that last longer. For other reasons, the world has developed batteries, mostly for cell phones and games, but we use exactly those batteries in our robots to collect data. And there are an increasing array of stakeholders who want to help collect the data. So one of our speakers was from Woodside Petroleum, who talked about humpback whales and blue whales, and the efforts that they've gone to document the population of whales off the west coast of Australia. As part of their ensuring their social license to operate, they need to show that their operations are not affecting the recovery of those whale stocks. We were reminded that curation of data is not free, and that it may indeed be a weak point in the ocean community. I hope I'm not embarrassing anybody, but I think I'm correct in saying that UNESCO, which after all has science and education in its title, spends, I think, exactly 1.5% of its budget on ocean matters. It's the tyranny of the terrestrial world, as Sylvia calls it, the dirt world. And we who represent the oceans need somehow to capture more of the resources and develop a system that's much more like the way that we organize our affairs in the atmosphere, and transfer some of that knowledge to the oceans.